Hello, hello. It's Holly Rustick here with Grant Writing and Funding. I'm super excited. We have an episode today with Sophie Olivier, and she is absolutely amazing, the CEO and founder of Flourish Fundraising. She's based in South Africa. She's in the mentorship, and she is amazing because she's been really building her business internationally. Like, she's not just moved abroad, like you live there. Like, that's where you're from. So can you talk about, I love this so much. So welcome to the podcast, first of all, Sophie.
Thanks, Holly. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited that you're here as well. And I love the work that you've been doing in your business this year. And I know, like, one of the things that we definitely want to talk about today is for all of you people out there that don't live in the US, because, yeah, we talk about US federal grants, we talk about US, we have a lot of people in the United States that are in our programs, et cetera, and the territories, but we don't really talk about a lot about, being from somewhere else and being a grant writer. We maybe talk about, like, you lived in the United States and, like, we've had people move to Spain or Germany or this or that, but, like, you live in South Africa and you wanted to build a grant writing business and you've been doing that, and then you found our programs to help you as well. And I think just to talk about, like, hey, if you live in Canada, if you live in the UK, if you live in other countries, like, you can definitely write grants as well. It's not just a stateside thing, and that's important to talk about. So let's talk about you. Like, let's talk about your business. Like, before we get there, what do you do? Like, what's your business all about? Tell me how you got into grant writing and all of the things.
Yeah. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again for having me. So I studied international development studies. So that was I knew I wanted to work kind of in this field and in the sector. And that's when I moved from the UK to South Africa 15 years ago and sort of started in the nonprofit sector. Sort of made my learn everything from the ground up, and sort of worked my way into the fundraising roles, and worked as the fundraising director, the director of development for a few small very community-based organizations. So really learned everything there is to learn about sort of nonprofit life. And then 8 years ago is when I started my own business, started my consultancy, and sort of was kind of doing a bit of everything in the fundraising space, as you do until you sort of realize what you really want to be doing, kind of a bit of everything in marketing and social media and online campaigns, and then really started to niche down into actual grant writing. And just what I love about having a grant writing business is that it's so easy to outsource it, because all of my clients, most of my work with have a fundraiser or, the director who I work with, the executive director, and they just know that they can just rest assured that the grants are like looked after because that's my role. Sophie's on it, it's just such a nice space to be in where you're in control of sort of one whole aspect of their sort of fundraising space. So so I've been doing that for 8 years, and really only since joining the mentorship have really started to sort of own it as a business, that I'm actually running my own business now, and all the things, we'll get into all the things that have happened since then, but that's how I kind of started out.
I love that. I love that so much. We're definitely going to dive into that, but I also want to lean into your business a little bit more. So you've been doing this for 8 years as a consultant, and I love that. And here's the thing: it's like, there's nonprofits everywhere in the world, and they all need funding and they all need support. And have you found, have you been leaning into certain types of grants that you like to write or certain types of fundraising? Can you talk a little bit more about the structure of your business and your offerings?
Yeah. So that's one quite big difference between sort of the way that US grants are, is how they sort of form to how I have found it in South Africa. And I work with a lot of international organizations that have, say, a US 501c and also a UK charity and a South African registration. So I do a lot of grants for sort of all types then of these sort of international opportunities that are available. But here in South Africa, we have, I work mainly sort of on foundations, family trusts, those sort of grants, and our government grants are just a very different ball game to the US. We don't have, there's just not as much opportunity. We do a little bit of that, but it's not quite the same. It's much more it's not as nuanced as it is in the US, where there's just not as much government funding here. So majority of our funding is from foundations. So that's really what I focus on, and then also from international foundations as well. So we're applying to the EU or ones that are abroad, but they are funding into South Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And you know, what are your thoughts then on EU grants? Like as far as, because I've written some as well. And what are your thoughts on like how they are comparative to like federal US grants?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, there's definite differences. I mean, between all different types of grants, and I found like each funder, even if it's a similar, like a bilateral or a multilateral, or it's from government, they still each one has then their own way that you have the terminology you're using, or the sort of what they're really looking for. Some are so much more technical than others. But what I've realized as well is that understanding the funder, whoever it is, and whatever sort of branch of government or branch of some sort of international funding, you still have to figure out exactly what they're looking for and tailor everything. Yeah. We can't just be sending out the same. It's not the same proposal we're writing. They're asking for different things, the different language, the way the budgets are set up, even between very similar foundations. Your budget has to, it looks totally different because they're asking for a different way, and the where they talk about overheads is different from this one, and you can, so I think each one still has, its differences, and the similarities are in the sort of foundations of how to write a grant, and having that sort of, like, we develop the sort of templates so that everything then is sort of available and being able to tailor, to each funder.
Yeah, I love that. And because I found that too, like when I was looking at EU grants, and I was like, they really like a lot of partnerships, and they like, there's a different kind of vibe. It really feels like, they really want to see the whole kind of ecosystem of what's happening. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Just like a different approach. And like you said, they're all very different, depends on the departments and all of the things, just like federal agencies. But I was like, okay, I liked how it was, but I was also like, it is, in my opinion, the ones that I've seen anyways, and the ones that I've written are like, you got to treat it like a federal grant, like the EU grants, like you got to have the time to do it. Like they ask for things like, you don't want to just run in and, like you said, you can't just like copy and paste a 2-page LOI. Like it is its own beast. So you got to know how to do it. So I'm so glad you have those skills. So if anyone out there is looking to write an EU grant, international grant, it is like they are their own, even just approaches. So Sophie's your girl. So definitely, that's even for me. I'm like, ooh, let's call Sophie. So I love that so much. And then just diving into, what you're talking about as well, those templates, and, like even we teach, we have a very structured way of how we teach grant writing, and people from different countries are always asking me, but Holly, I don't live in the States. Can I still learn grant writing from you, even though, you're writing from this maybe American perspective? And I'm like, well, I mean, yes, we do talk about federal grants, and we do talk about different, some foundation grants that are in the States, but writing a grant is a grant is a grant. Like you have to understand the mind, like the process behind it. And that's universal. Like, do you find that to be true as well?
Yeah, definitely 100%. And what I did, we get this sort of master grant template that they provided as part of the mentorship. So I took that and then basically adapted it for my clients. So where there was sort of terms that we don't really use here, like, or the way that we would lay out the budget, it was quite easy to adapt it because, I've got sort of the way that we would term things, and then it's the sort of the layout, the structure, it's very similar in terms of just making it clear. There's a definite thread through of how to lay it out, and we all have to use the same theory of change and the same logic models and the same activity plans. Like all of that is standard for the sector globally. So those it's so helpful to have those templates ready to go, and adaptable for your different areas.
Amazing. And then for you too, like in your business, Flourish Fundraising, do you focus on organizations in South Africa, or do you have like a global cause area? Like what kind of nonprofits do you serve, or government agencies or whatnot? Yeah.
Yeah, most of my clients basically have worked all over Africa. So the majority are based in South Africa, but I've had quite a few that work across sub-Saharan Africa. Like I said, some have got 501c, so then we will be applying to US-based foundations. Some have UK charities, so we applied to the sort of UK Charities Trust that want to fund into Africa. And then various sort of ones in between that, even within the mentorship through one of the other participants. We worked on a project together for an international organization in Ghana doing amazing stuff in the maternal health space, and that was really totally new to me as well, so we got to work on that together and sort of doing some grants.
How fun.
For that.
Who are you working with again on that one? Who are you working with in the mentorship? Oh, Audra. Oh, very cool. Oh, how fun. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's really great just to, see how she works, and we kind of, got to work together and, learn from each other, because she didn't have sort of the international experience, and I, a lot of it was still US. They still had, the US base. So I think, that's the majority of my my clients are in that space. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And then you said you also do some other things outside of grant writing as well. Do you tie in any kind of or is it just setting them up kind of from grant readiness to applying for grants? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the majority, I try now, I've really just moved into that space of just doing 12-month retainers. So obviously a lot of my clients have continued. Some of my clients have been with me since I started. So for 7-8 years. And we just do an annual, 3 of my current clients are, long standing. So they just see the benefit of it. So that's amazing. And then the majority, like I said, 12-month retainers, and it always starts with that grant readiness, the grant audit. One difference here in South Africa is we have a lot of documentation. The due diligence that we have here compared to what I have seen, from when I do my US-based ones, it's like you have one registration here, there's 6 different registrations, and you register with this one and then that one. Yeah, it's a lot more complicated. So there's a lot more documentation that has to be in place. So there's a lot of the grant readiness, which is always sort of the first stage. And doing the audit, and then have you got everything in place, getting all the proposals and the templates ready, and then it's rolling on the actual just grants month to month. So that's the majority of the sort of work I do. I do take on various smaller projects where again it's either just doing a prospect research, find us 30 really great funders that we could approach, and doing that kind of just a big scope of work in terms of who's out there, who could we approach. And then this year is the first year I actually have started with another consultant a training coaching program for fundraisers and directors. So that's a 9-month program we're in the middle of. We've got about 10 organizations on that, and so that's been a real step out into doing something that's not just grant writing, but teaching people how to do grant writing, how to do the proposals, how to do the donor meetings. So that's been a really great addition to my business as well. So that's sort of the main services I provide. Yeah.
I love that. And I know that we've worked back and forth on coaching around that program too. And that's been fun to see that, materialize and going full force. So that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So good. So on that too, can I just ask you okay, so coming from the world of grants from the US perspective in 2025, has, you may be aware, obviously you're a grant writer, of some of the things that are happening, and you work with, peers inside the United States, but has that affected anything in South Africa that you've seen, or internationally with some of your other clients?
Yeah, for us, the US aid has been a huge knock to the system as a whole, and we're starting now, a few months later, to see the real trickles down of that, where it feels like the rest of the money, the pool of people now applying for the same money has just grown, so it's not necessarily that sort of even the ones that weren't affected directly by what's happening in the US and by a lot of those cuts, but we're seeing it through all of the sort of international funding where a lot of countries are cutting down on their international aid. So that's really like, it trickles down, because I work with a lot of sort of the grassroots organizations, and where a lot of those bigger international NGOs were like immediately affected, it's now really trickling down to where it feels like just tougher, you know, in terms of how much money is available and how many of us are all going. It feels sometimes that we're all going for the same pots of money, you know, because this just feels limited. And so, you know, one real big shift this year for me has really been in the relationship building side of it, where it's now we're no longer, you can just apply and hope for the best, where I think when I started it felt more like, you know, we'll apply for 5 and we'll get maybe 2 of them, you know, and it's now kind of 1 in 20 or something. And a lot more of those foundations are closing in terms of, you know, not accepting unsolicited proposals. So now it's like, okay, how do we get in front of these donors? How are they finding us? And my clients that have really got that are like thriving, and you know, where it's how are we developing those relationships outside of just applying for grants. So that's been a big part of it as well. It's almost like the coaching that has to come with that, like we need to pick up the phone and we need to invite them, and how are we making any kind of connections that we can through our board and through volunteers and other organizations. And my clients that are open to sharing their own, even their own donors, and introducing other nonprofits, have seen so much benefit of sharing of resources. So I think that's been one big thing that sort of happened after what's happening in the US with your year.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see it, because I was thinking about that too, and you're saying, I'm serving a lot of organizations in Africa, and I know USAID, had a large budget to give to different organizations, and specifically Africa. So I was wondering if that did affect, and it sounds, like it has. So, but I like how you're repositioning your clients, and that they need you even more now, and that you're helping coach them in different ways of not just like the application, or maybe like how to open a portal, how to apply, but now we need to have those relationships. So I just want to applaud you for being able to jump in and do that and take the reins, because that sounds like it's been so beneficial for your clients. So well done. That's good to know, like, what you're doing. And the training that you do, right? So you're also like training nonprofit leaders to really step up and grow capacity with the training program that you provide. So I think that's really important. I don't know, even looking at the shifts in all AI and writing and all of that, like I was reading this thing today, or I was looking on Instagram, and it was talking about like this projection on AI and all the things. And it was saying one of the things obviously that AI can't, replace is empathy and human connection and all of that. And it sounds like that's what you're leaning into. So not just like the economic times, but almost like the technical time or technological times as well. So I think that's really smart. So so well done. Keep it up. All right. So so let's go ahead and pivot. You're welcome. Into also like your business now itself, like not just what your services you offer, but how your business has grown. Because you've mentioned you've been doing your business for 8 years now. And, and one of the things we talked about in the green room before we got on we started recording was you took your first vacation this year, like, where there was no internet. So you were forced not to work, like, and that was in 8 years. Can you talk about that? 'Cause I think that's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I always thought I was kind of, taking vacations and doing like a few days here and there, but I would always be on, you'd always still be like checking your stuff and checking emails and kind of being available to your clients just in case they needed to. So I just realized like this isn't really taking proper holiday. And so for the first time, that I really was like, okay, I'm taking a whole week, like 7 days and no internet, so nobody can contact me. But it's only been possible because I've been able to hire such amazing people. So I've got a team now. So it's not just me. And that's because of the mentorship, because that step of I did have a few people who I would hire too quickly or think that was the role that was needed, and then you get into it and then you realize like, I'm in it now, and I've hired this person and they're not quite the right person, and I didn't realize. And you kind of, it was, going through the process of like, what role do I actually want somebody else to play? Like, what do I enjoy doing? What don't I enjoy doing? And how can I give that to somebody else? Or those places where like, is this worth my time, or can I pay somebody to be doing this for me? And, I've outsourced my social media and all the things that I don't like doing, and the design work and the stuff that I used to just do because I thought, well, I need to just do it. So giving that over to someone, and I think really training up a team so that they know that they can just do it when I'm not there. They're answering emails for me and contacting clients when I need to, and just having that sort of trust in your team as well. It's just been amazing. So yeah. It's been great.
I love that. And yeah, using our part-time lean team method for that. And just to say, like, that was me too, like before I got that on lock, right? It was, I would hire the wrong team member. And that's why I built this, because I'm like, I know you guys are struggling with the same thing. So just to hear like, yeah, that's what happened before the mentorship, and then joining and being like, now that you've hired the right people, a word that really struck me, because I've been hearing this from other mentorship students, is trust. Like finally being able to trust their team has been like game changing, because maybe they hired people before, but it was always like that, they're not doing it right, I don't really trust you. And then you're not really getting them incorporated into your culture, everything like that, because you don't have the trust. Like, so I think that word there has been is that like a huge shift for you, and that's really unlocked a lot?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you've started something yourself and it's only ever just been you, it's so hard to let go of but even the stuff you don't even really like doing, but it's that idea of like, oh, is somebody else going to be able to do it? And when they're like representing your business. But I think even just having written down SOPs of like, well, how do we do this, and how do we talk to clients, or all the sort of little things that you realize is in your brain, and how are getting out of your brain and then onto not paper, onto the Google Doc, onto paper, but we don't use paper, is just that it's somebody else has got it, that it's like written down now, and it's not just, and to actually think through like, okay, when I want to find a new client, how do I do that? Because there's so many things that we do intuitively when you've been doing something for so long. Or how do we actually go about writing a grant, or how do I teach somebody else how to do that? So I think even just sitting down and going through, okay, how do I actually run this business? And if I want to grow, then I have to be able to give it to somebody else, the different roles. So really moving into that more, like I now have like a tier of, I just give work to one person and then she does over the other person, and they now meet weekly and she manages her, and I actually don't have to even meet with that person anymore. And I'm like, oh, someone else is doing this for me. And I think that's always been like the next step of like actually moving into more of being a business owner as opposed to the one doing everything.
Yeah, I love that so much. And just bringing that up too, that was another thing we discussed. Like, okay, so I'd love for you to tell people on the podcast here on the YouTube channel, like what that was. And you went from, because you said when people ask me what I do, like, what do you tell them now? Like, I love that.
Yeah. So I think that I used to like not really know and sort of fumble around. So now the first thing I say is, oh, I run my own business, So that's just sort of the first thing, have my own business. And then I say, oh yeah, it's in grant writing. I'm a grant writer and this is what I do. So it's kind of even just that shift of like, oh yeah, actually I do run my own business. And I think it's always, I don't know, I think I've been the main breadwinner since we had my son 8 years ago. My husband was the stay-at-home parent. And it was always kind of like that, like, oh yeah, I'm the one who works, or, never really owning, like stepping into that, like, actually, I'm a business owner and it's a successful business and we make, I'm making a good income and I can employ people. And it's so amazing to be in a space where you're actually benefiting so many people as well at the end. I love that what we do as grant writers is actually it's getting the money from the to the right people at the end of the day, and especially because I work so much in the grassroots space, and when you see the need that is here, like it's just amazing to be in a space where you're making money for the right reasons as well. So it's a great business to have.
So good. So good. And just having that, like, Because, you know, it was funny. I'm thinking about that too. And that's what I say now too. I say the same thing, Sophie. So when someone says, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh yeah, I run my own business. And then they're like, oh, so what is it? You know what I mean? Of course, it's that follow-up question, like, well, what kind of business? So it almost put, and it positions you very, like, if you looked at it like from a psychology angle, I'm sure it positions you like as, you know, in an authority, right? Yeah, I have my own business. Oh, you're an authority. And then like, what is the authority? Grant writing. Oh, you're the person to go to for grant writing. It just like that lockstep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I didn't, yeah, that's amazing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like almost you like, oh, I used to say I'm a consultant, or you know, I'm a grant. You just say I'm a grant writer for nonprofits, but
I'm a grant writer.
Like
yeah. It's different. It's different. Yeah, so y'all, start using it, and that's where the in the mentorship too. To your point, like in the academy, we're like you're learning how to write grants, and then you're getting clients. Like we're teaching you grants and sales, right? And then in the mentorship, we're teaching you systems and how to think as a business owner and that kind of energy. Because when you're just starting off freelancing, you're like, I write grants. You know, that's how you would you talk. But now we're like, I'm a business owner, and that's such a different weight to it. So I love that you're doing that. And I was thinking that's what I do now too. And it's so stepping into the mindset of becoming that, of yes, I do have people that work for me and that help in the business. And it's not just me, and it's not just this personal thing that could fall apart if I get sick tomorrow. It's its own entity that can operate when I take time off, right? That can keep going. And I just love that whole shift. And even you've been in business for 8 years, and then coming into the mentorship, like how has that been different for you? Because it's not like you haven't been a business owner for a long time, right?
Yeah, like I think so much of it was like I said, the mind shift of actually this is, like I said, this is an entity, this is a business, it's not just me. And how, if I do want this to grow, how is it even, it's like even, you know, the possibility of having a great team and SOPs in place and that sort of thing. Is like when you're just trying to kind of, when you're running everything yourself, it's so hard to even envisage like, where do I start, you know? And that's what was so great, like taking us through like step by step. Okay, start with this, and then it's this step, and it was like, okay, I can do this, I can just do the next step, and then it sort of, it forms that whole you know, like a cycle of, okay, I can do this, and once I've put that in place, then this is the next thing. And so I think it's just that it's given me so much more scope to be able to put in systems. So now I've got more clients, and I can actually do more grants because I've got the systems in place. So it's totally increased everything in terms of revenue, in terms of grants secured, in terms of grants sent. The team has grown, so everything has sort of exponentially grown, in all the different ways. So yeah,
I love that so much. Ooh, okay, so let's do a hot take before we sign off today. So one of the hot takes, let me know, like, what is the hottest take in the mentorship that has helped you, and then give a hot take to the audience just in grants in general, like whatever you want to share.
Okay, so I think my biggest, hot take is, I think it's the sense of community that comes with joining the mentorship, because we all in the same boat together here, and there's so much camaraderie, especially with everything that's been going on in the grant space and in the with the US, and just feeling like we all in this together, you know, because I think it's so easy when you're running your own business or is to feel isolated and feel like, I'm the only one dealing with this, and trying to make time to like find peers in this space because you're so bogged down with the work. So I think that was, you know, one thing that was super amazing, apart from all of the other actual, you know, work that we were able to do, was that weekly check-in and on the Slack channels, and being able just to like share work, and this is what I'm struggling with, and somebody else is struggling with the same thing, or they've been through it and they've got an idea. And so I think that idea is not just you're getting coaching from an expert, it's like we all, the whole group was learning from each other, and so that was really a special space. And I guess I always think I always tell people, if you ever want a career that's like never going to go away, it's fundraising, right? Because like you said, here in South Africa we have almost 300,000 nonprofits. I mean, obviously the US is much bigger, but every single one of them, the one thing everybody needs is funding. And in the grant space, I think there's so much potential for it to become so much more professionalized, especially here in the global South. There's so much that we can be learning. The US feels like you're years ahead of us with having, you know, the grant associations and the stuff that we are just sort of behind in terms of the professionalism of as a career. So I'm always like telling people that it's, you know, it's such a great, you know, career, and then to be able to freelance, start your own business. It's such a rewarding career to have, and then something that when you get the kind of mentorship from someone like Holly, to how you can then, you know, turn it into like a great business that is really profitable. So yeah.
I love that so much. And to your point, and to your credit, you've been doing this for 8 years in South Africa. So it's not like it's totally, you know what I mean? Like there is a need for it. Absolutely. Like, I'm sure, like, even in your area, it's not like someone else opens up a fundraising consultancy. You'd probably start partnering together. It doesn't even feel like competition because it's just not saturated in that way. But the number of nonprofits, there's so many and there's so much need, right? Yeah. So I love your hot takes. And that's been like, I've been interviewing, I think we just had like 4 interviews come out the last couple of weeks and with mentorship students. And that's been the number one thing all of them have said is community, which I think is great. I love that so much. And just, we're building such a tight knit community. It's our mastermind. It's a more intimate group. And I love that you guys hire each other. You know, you and Andra work together. Like there's so many opportunities when you have that support that, you know, your spouses, your partners, your family just aren't going to understand the things that are happening in your work, nor should they. Yeah, that's, you know, you don't want to bring your work into that too. You want to leave your work at work. So I think this is great that you guys have that community, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I'm so proud of you and your business, Sophie. Like, you're just growing in leaps and bounds, and, you know, your business is just flourishing as it does, right? So it really is. And I love that so much. And, you know, especially with now you're really focusing on relationships and growing up capacity for those nonprofit leaders as well. So y'all, if you guys are in that space, like, definitely check out Sophie. Where can they find you online? And we'll have the links because I know you got a website, but go ahead and say it so they can hear it.
Yeah, my website is flourishfundraising.com. So it's a simple one to remember. And LinkedIn. You can always find me on LinkedIn as well.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been so much fun. And yeah, I can't wait just to be part of your journey, to continue to see you grow and everything like that. So we'll talk soon. Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks, Holly.
Okay.